Minecraft has been around for over a decade and has been beaten millions of times by millions of people due to it being extremely easy. So I went ahead and made it impossible. The rules are simple, yet terrible. I can't mine blocks. I can't jump. And that doesn't just mean the movement. The keybind itself is unbounded, meaning if I fall in the water, there is no way I'm getting out. Also, I'm unable to use weapons, tools, or have any armor throughout the entire playthrough. How will I get resources when I can't mine? Mining is quite literally in the game's title. Is this even possible? The short answer to that question is yes. And I know I dubbed this as the impossible version, but throughout the entire video, I find ways to work around these limitations. Like for example, the first problem came in the form of changing elevations. How the hell do I get from point A to point B? Well, before that, I had to make sure I left nothing unattended to on this level. And considering there was nothing but barren ice on this level, I had to come up with a solution fast on how to get to the next one. I needed to create slabs. Slabs will provide a seamless movement from one block over to the next, and the way I obtained my first set of blocks may seem unorthodox. Yep, and there's one. That reaction was simply not good enough for what just occurred. In case you missed it, that wooden oak block fell right on the edge of the hole in which the creeper created. Why does that matter, you ask? Well, you see, on top of the creeper disintegrating 2/3 of the blocks it blows up, meaning they're gone forever, every time a block falls into the hole, I have no way of getting out of it. But nevertheless, that did not happen, and I spent the rest of the night attacking as many suicide bombers as I possibly could to allow me to actually get this run going. This extremely tedious method gave me unlimited access to wood, so I can now freely wander the world as I chose. The next move was to find a place to set up my home base, and ideally, this place would have access to a few things. Iron golems so I can create iron, villagers so I don't have to be alone throughout the entire thing, and potentially a beach. I'll elaborate more on the beach later, but for now, all roads led to the nearest village where I inhabited a fellow villager's home. In this said village, I found a chest full of food, which is extremely valuable because if I didn't mention before, I'm playing on hard mode, which means my hunger is bound to be low. And a shovel, which I will not be using, do not worry. I also looked for potential trades to exploit, but unfortunately, I did not have any emeralds, and the villagers offered trades that were lackluster to say the least. And after dying countless times to skeletons, and even more skeletons, I tamed enough wolves to form a pack to defend me against any mob that came my way. While exploring, I found a second village that was quite frankly a gold mine. Chest full of the most valuable resource to me currently, wood. This opened my eyes up to how terrible it truly was to lure creepers close to a tree and have them blow up so I could obtain my only means of traversing. I had to come up with yet another solution to better save my time because at this point, I'm around 4 hours in and I've gotten absolutely nowhere. Because I had experience in this area from my previous video, go check it out, I needed to construct a mob farm. The mob farm will give me unlimited access to a whole bunch of items, most of which I obviously can't use, like enchanted armor or swords or anything like that, but one that will be an absolute lifesaver. Gunpowder. And remember what I said about beaches before? Yup, this is where they come in. With sand and gunpowder, I will be able to use TNT to not only gather resources like wood, iron, and whatever I needed, but also unlock a way to traverse into the ground, which is necessary if I want to complete this game. Building this monstrosity was definitely a difficult challenge because without jumping or breaking blocks, I had to be extremely careful to not mess anything up. Like here, where I had to strategically build around a misplaced block because, to reiterate, I cannot break any blocks. And don't get me started on placing the water down for this design. I probably combined for over 10 deaths here alone. Dirt was my choice of block to construct this thing as it was the only resource I had in abundance due to creepers giving me around 15 to 30 blocks per explosion. So through careful execution and performing impossible stunts to get over the challenge of not being able to build upwards, the mob farm is now complete. And I'm not going to say what it looks like, but I'll say this might be the ugliest mob farm I have ever seen. It worked exactly as I intended it to. Thank God. Giving me obviously gunpowder for TNT, bones for any amount of wolves I wanted, and zombie flesh, which is useless. But there was still one persisting issue. I needed the flint and steel to be able to light the TNT. Unfortunately, the two villages I had been to did not hold iron golems, so I had to go on an adventure. And you would really think the nearest village would be relatively close, but think again. I traveled the distance equivalent to that of the people who were part of the Great Migration. It was a 3-day long journey, but I was determined to find one. And once I finally got there, I immediately got to work slaying the iron golem, and to no one's surprise, I got absolutely bodied. Multiple times. Finally, I took out the iron golem, made my flint and steel, and began gathering all the resources that I needed. It was time to combine everything I had worked so hard to achieve up until this point and start making this challenge a lot more bearable. I made my first ever TNT block, and man, it felt spectacular being able to do anything I wanted without the help of others. I blew up a whole bunch of sand to compensate for the amount of gunpowder I had, and now had a sufficient amount of TNT to get any amount of any block I wanted. For example, I will now never run out of slabs. Ever. No more unwanted deaths, getting stuck for hours at a time in a hole, and best of all, no more of those godforsaken creepers. Now, when I first thought of doing this challenge, the next part of the video I envisioned would be the toughest challenge of all time. Creating a nether portal. And was it the toughest thing up until this point? Yes. As most of you know, you need 10 obsidian to light a nether portal, but obviously I am unable to break those blocks, so crafting it conventionally was out of the question. But there was another way used by countless pros to efficiently and effectively create one. I needed a lava pit, a certain temporary block, and a bucket. So I went on yet another adventure. I'll save you from the montage this time. I found my pit of lava, and due to it being during the night when I got there, I couldn't mentally take the fact that if I die, I go back to where I came from. That godforsaken village. So I made a base in a tree to avoid any potential threats. The next morning I started making my nether portal, and I hope you enjoyed the tutorial on how to execute building it to perfection without any blocks. Place your very temporary block over here. Bang, we got that so far. Place this block over there, wait for this one to burn. I'm just gonna start it off hot. Bang. Bang. Light this. Go 1, 2. Fuck me. 3. Very careful here. Water right here. Okay. That did not go as planned, but I think we can recover here. Bang, one more, please, please. Oh, wrong way. That's not good. There we go. Voila. As I entered the nether, I had hoped that I would spawn on a relatively high elevation because going upwards of the nether with wooden slabs would be a pain in the ass. I looked around and realized my wish was granted. And like the beginning of the run, I yet again had to make sure I left nothing unattended to on the level I was on. And keep an eye on the biome because this will play a key role later in the video. Just one sidebar, when you have nothing, this is one scary sight. The next thing to do is very simple in its idea, but man, it was nearly impossible to execute. First up on the list was finding a nether fortress, which is relatively annoying in a normal survival world, but now I do not have weapons, armor, and cannot jump. So traveling through the nether felt as if I can quite literally perish at any moment. I of course had to build my path to the nether fortress out of wood over lava, in which all of it got destroyed. Let me also explain to you how truly annoying it was when I ran out of resources. Yes, I wanted to spawn in an elevated surface, but what I did not know is that traveling back up it negates the entire point of me wanting to spawn there in the first place. So to combat this, I created a cycle. Whenever I ran out of resources, I would scale as high as I could, kill myself, get more wood through the horrible creeper process, and then repeat the entire thing. But nevertheless, I completed my staircase out of hell, and through my long travels, I had finally found a fortress. At this point, however, I had run out of all my TNT, so I made a quick trip back to the home base and made a hell of a lot more. Also, I was sick of gathering wooden slabs that were very tedious to get, so I relocated to the desert to have access to sandstone slabs, which were in a lot more of an abundance, and created yet another nether portal and found yet another fortress in a different area. The next goal in the nether was to obtain blaze rods, which if you didn't already know is damn near impossible when you have no weapons to hurt them with, or armor to defend yourself with. My plan was to get around 6 to 9 because you need them to make a sufficient amount of ender eyes to not only find the stronghold, but open the portal to the end. So naturally, I got straight to work beating them off with my fist. And as you may have expected, this just went amazingly. Nope, it did not go well. As I was beginning to get sick and tired of dying all of those times, I remembered something. Snowballs are the bane to Blaze's existence. So I went ahead and gathered some snow and got only one blaze rod because the nearest snowy biome was across the entire world. And if you consider snowballs a weapon, let me know in the comments, but rest assured, I was very capable of doing this without them, but it just seems so unnecessary. After obtaining the optimal amount of blaze rods, I was finally done with that process. Now for another challenging part, obtaining ender pearls. I tried using my luck in the piglin bartering system, but unfortunately, they just did not give me what I wanted. It gave me great items like enchanted boots, but obviously I am just unable to use those. But remember the biome I was in before? Yep, I am going back there because that is where I could find the most amount of endermen. So I used a sort of tree blocking tactic to kill the enderman, and that surprisingly worked very well. There we go. Then I turned the blaze rods into blaze powder and made enough ender eyes to begin the final part of this journey. The end. Up until this point, I have not mined a single block. I am yet to use the jump key a single time and have gotten through the godforsaken nether without tools or armor. But this next part of the video was easily the hardest part. The ender dragon is no scrub, and especially with no tools or armor, it's definitely going to be hard to defeat him, but rest assured, I will not stop until this game is completed. With only 7 ender eye, I could only hope that the stronghold was close by. Luckily enough for me, it was less than 1,000 blocks away, so I actually over-prepared for this one. For finding the stronghold, I knew it was going to take a massive amount of TNT, because on average, it is located around 10 blocks below average ground. And with each TNT block blowing up around 5 blocks downward, I definitely needed a lot more than I had. So after blowing up all I had, I obtained a whole lot more and got to excavating. This process wasn't too bad, and I eventually found it. The end portal was pretty far away, but like everything in this run, through determination, I found it. As I heard the sound of the portal opening, I just knew this fight was going to be sick. My plan for defeating the ender dragon went as follows. Make 100 beds and 1,000 slabs and hope for the best. Realistically though, beds blow up if placed in the nether, and since every crystal is on an elevation, my plan was to build a bridge connecting every platform and use all of my beds to destroy them. When I entered the end, I immediately built up to see what I was working with and got straight to building up and blew up the first crystal. As for the rest of the battle, it did not go that easy. I probably am in the running for the most deaths ever experienced in the end, so I'll keep a counter in the bottom left of the screen for you to follow along. Due to the fact that there was absolutely no consequences to dying, I did not mind this at all. I made my rounds from pillar to pillar, and the death total was reaching heights that most likely was never seen before. Listen, I have never made the claim that I was good or even talented, but I believe words that describe me are ambitious or optimistic, but one thing that is for sure is I will go to whatever means possible to achieve this goal. Now for actually defeating the ender dragon, I am sure you have all seen this technique before in a variety of different speedruns, but essentially the way it works is you take around 6 to 8 beds and blow them up as the ender dragon spins slowly down, and I ran out of beds. Luckily enough for me, his health was still where I left it, and I won. So that's it, beating the impossible version of Minecraft. If you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe as more videos like this one are definitely to come.